sans dire à tout.
What's going on, Jerk Faces? It's your boy, Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, we're back. We're live. It's the stream just before Thanksgiving, so you know what that means. We're all gonna get fat.
Get fat? I'm already fat. What are you
Well, fatter. Let's just say
okay,
fatter.
That works. It looks like I got to go up another notch on the belt.
I know, right? And it's so sad too because I just started my, or at least I started getting into a workout regimen somewhat, and then it's gonna be Thanksgiving, and then it's gonna be raining like for the majority of the week.
Yeah, not looking forward to the rain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could still go out and walk like in the rain, but then I'd be walking out in the rain.
You might melt like the Wicked Witch of the West.
I might be a sugar person. But anyways, yes.
I was gonna ask, like, we got Thanksgiving coming up. Like, do you have? We probably talked about this last year, but do you have any like traditions that you like to do, or?
Traditions? Huh. I see. Beyond the tradition of getting together with your family, immediate and extended. I guess for me personally, I do watch The Godfather on if not the trilogy, at least uh, 1 and 2, and AMC, the cable channel, they they had they usually have like an all day Godfather marathon. So as I'm cooking or helping to prepare the meal, I could always just have that on in the background.
A good thing to do. I think a friend of the podcast, Eric. He talks about that's one of his Thanksgiving traditions too. He watches the Godfather Trilogy.
Right, that's right.
Not a bad way to spend Thanksgiving.
No, absolutely not. Just go through the rise and go through the rise and inevitable end of Michael Corleone.
Yeah.
Not a terrible way to spend Thanksgiving day. Depending on what you're doing. This year we're actually my family is hosting. Because usually we have it at my aunt's house, but
right.
My aunt is not feeling up to it, and also her place. The street that her place is, they've been doing road construction for what seems to be forever. Parking would be a little bit of a situation, bit of a problem. So, she's foregone the duty of hosting, and so my family has kind of picked it up and is like, hey, if you're not going to be, if you don't have any plans, then come over to our place, and we'll have dinner. But it ended up kind of being all my aunts and uncles, but none of the kids, as it were. I'm hosting my aunts and uncles. And with the exception of 2 of my cousins, who will be coming in Not necessarily from Texas, but they're from Texas. So
I see.
yeah. Yeah, all my other family, like they have plan, like at least like my cousins and and their kids and such. They already have plans, or they rather go do something else, which is
Sounds
fine,
like a
which is
good
their right.
yeah. It sounds like a good Thanksgiving though. My tradition, I guess it's one of the traditions that we have. We go to the LA Auto Show normally every Thanksgiving. Well, at least because they've been doing that for about 10 years, having it for during the Thanksgiving festivities. Though, if it rains, I don't know if we're gonna go. So that's one of the problems. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe there's not too much rain and we decide to go because I'd like to continue the tradition. But I suppose if we don't end up going, we'll probably end up watching something like like some Mystery Science Theater 3000. Do a marathon of that or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have too many like I'm not a we don't have a ton of traditions, but that's one of ours.
Let's see. Yeah. I mean, at least. Yeah, my family either. I mean, neither. Other than us all getting together and having dinner. For a while there, uh, me and my cousins, we did have a thing where we would go watch a movie at the conclusion of dinner. But it didn't last very long. I think it lasted for like maybe 3 or 4 Thanksgivings.
Well, because they used to have it where they started doing more like premieres, like Thanksgiving and Christmas weekend, and they've kind of stopped doing that for you know the last couple of years. So it's well, if there's nothing new coming out, like it's and a lot of the movies you've gotten already seen already. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think one year we watched the Spider-Man movie.
yeah.
Um. But yeah. Other than that, I can't really think of any other movies that we watched. But I'm pretty sure they're like kind of, which is weird that I can't think of any because I'm pretty sure that they'd be some sort of like uh, blockbuster or something or something of the sort.
Yeah.
Um,
I one thing is like if we go to the LA Auto Show, I'm looking forward to laughing at Elon Musk's Cybertruck or whatever they put
mm.
out for Tesla. Have you seen the pictures and
Yeah,
memes about that?
yeah, I saw the video where they thought. You know what's crazy? The window breaking looked fake.
You think that was faked?
It. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that it was fake, but to me, it looked a little fake. Because when the guy threw the softball or whatever at the window, usually when glass breaks, it usually sends up like small little particles into the air. But I don't remember seeing any because it was like an unveiling of this new thing, and it would be lit very well, and usually for a dramatic effect, it'd be lit from the back, which would give it a nice silhouette effect. But I don't remember seeing any like dust come off the glass when he threw the baseball.
Well, I also think because this is ballistic glass, right? Yeah, or
Mm-hmm.
supposedly ballistic glass. So, I mean, there is going to be some sort of there is, we're calling it shatterproof, but it does have, if you shoot a gun at it, it's not gonna the bullet might not go through, but it's gonna leave a mark. Same thing if you
Right, but I
throw
mean,
something.
but something because a lot of bulletproof quote unquote bulletproof glass is just laminated, and that just means, it's like, I know a lot of people think of laminate, they might think back to elementary school and like, when the teacher does a craft project with you and she'll laminate the paper with plastic, but lamination just means like sticking like layers. And in this case, yeah, and in bulletproof glass, all it is layered glass. But I mean, something thrown like the mass uh, of a baseball thrown at with the speed of an average person, not like a professional baseball player. Maybe 45 miles per hour, and
that's a pretty conservative.
Yeah, I know. I realize that. I'm speaking averages here. Like the average person would probably throw about 45, and the guy was probably about, give or take, 4 to 5 feet away from the car. It wouldn't have broken, or it wouldn't have like that spider pattern, or shouldn't.
Well, I think the other thing too is, because I mean, it's eventually probably not going to affect him, but his stock price dropped drastically like after that. It's
because I mean it's a double fail, because the initial concept art that came out for this thing, it looked more like kind of like your standard truck, something that people can understand and wrap their head around being a truck. But I mean, I don't know if you've seen the memes, but there's that meme of the sandcrawler that the Jawas drive in Star Wars, and like, oh, check out the new Cybertruck from Tesla, and it's just like this angular monstrosity, and just like, how is this a truck? Like the whole, because I know that they're, because I think they're definitely trying to go for like a pickup truck aesthetic, and like the whole thing about a pickup truck is its utility. It's the bed in the back, the open air bed in the back, which is useful for stowing and transport of items or objects. But you have like this totally like geometric angular a Jawa sand crawler, and just like,
yeah, it looks like a Pontiac Aztek had sex with a DeLorean, and that's what
that that's not a bad what is it analogy.
Yeah, it's just it makes the Pontiac Aztek look like a well designed car, and it kind of also it reminds me of like one of the early Simpsons episodes where Homer meets his long lost brother Herbert, and
that was the other meme.
It's like, now unveiling the Homer. It's like,
right, exactly. That was the other meme. That was the other meme going around as well.
It's like 250,000. Oh, I'm ruined. It's like,
oh man. Yeah, and then like they released that clip of the Cybertruck playing, doing tug of war with the the Ford. And it's like, the Cybertruck won, but it's like, who cares? You can't make windows that won't stand up to a baseball being thrown by an average human being.
Yeah, you have that. I mean, it's like, and then you also think it's like, sure, it might be able to do certain things, quote unquote, better, but like, you also want something that doesn't look like a piece of shit either. People, especially like, maybe the rest of the world doesn't care. Like, I don't really, care what Europe thinks or Asia or whatever. But like, North America, especially, in, like Texas, California, a lot of these places that, they're buying a lot of, especially trucks, right?
Right. I mean, in America, we are the pickup truck nation.
Right. It's like those countries don't have, pickup trucks.
Yeah, I mean, they have trucks with with like a rear bed, yeah, but they're not pickup trucks. It's
right.
Like,
no one's driving them for fun.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
here, we take pride and like we want a truck that looks nice and gets the job done. This piece of shit doesn't like yeah, it might have
Yeah,
more
this
power,
angular
it
piece
might
of shit
have more
too.
towing capacity, but I don't want to fucking drive that thing.
Right? Yeah. I mean, just to be honest with y'all, in high school, I actually wanted a Dodge Ram pickup truck.
Yeah, I mean it's like
I love the idea of a pickup truck, and then and then especially in high school, like I really like the late '90s Dodge Rams, like at least in terms of like their design, you know,
yeah, I mean
and
like you
yeah, I
you
thought
even
that
have
I thought it was a beautiful truck, and I wanted that to be my first car.
yeah, it's not a bad looking truck,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean hell, they even started a racing division in NASCAR that is it's the truck series. It's
Right.
like because that's what a lot of NASCAR fans drive, and it's like, all right, cool, I get to see people race in the trucks that I drive on the road, and it's great racing.
Exactly. I mean, just imagine if NASCAR adopted the Cybertruck for their like racing.
Oh
It's like,
Jesus Christ!
um,
What a
yeah, it's just
monstrosity!
I don't know. I'm trying to think that Elon Musk isn't as smart as we're all meant to believe that he is.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what I was telling, my parents the other day, because it's like, you have someone that like, I'm not saying he's dumb because he's not a dumb guy. Like he is a smart guy in some sense, but it's like, we have people who are like, oh my god, he's smarter than the rest of us. He's thinking so differently and so crazy. It might just work, and we give him all this, praise and throwing money at the guy for all these projects, and it's like, why? The guy is digging tunnels underneath Los Angeles. Like, why are we letting him do that? Without any sort of. I don't think people are thinking about that. I kind of think it's the same thing that goes with like Albert Einstein. They did the same thing back. Not that Albert Einstein was a dumb guy, but like there was a lot of times where it's like, a lot of the shit that like he came up with was stuff they stole from the patent office that he
Yeah,
worked
like
at.
other smart people were like coming in, it's like, yeah, this is my idea for but yeah, like I'm to the point where like I'm thinking that Elon Musk is just like this uh like public relations guy. He's just like he's kind of like the crafted face for like the company. It's not really him, you know. You create, I mean, because like where was, you never heard this guy, you know, you never heard of this guy until like 10 years ago, really, and
Is he like the Steve Jobs to Wozniak? It's kind of like where it's just he's the face that throws out the ideas and he kind of markets stuff, whereas like he has all this other people behind him that are actually doing the thinking.
right. I mean, yeah, he could be like that, but even worse, because even I mean, because Steve Jobs was at least some of it uh, capable of even like because he was kicked out of his own company. You have to remember, and then he went and
Yeah,
started to pick Pixar, and then and then eventually he was invited back to Apple. So he's at least able to uh, uh, I guess like create actually create things. And
right.
I'm not 100% sure how much Elon is necessarily involved with all the planning and things like that, or designing of his of his products. But I mean, I mean, if you look and if you do like a simple Google search of Elon Musk from just before he got famous, he was bald, or like he at least had a cul-de-sac.
Wow, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
like
I
he had the Mr. Burns thing kind of thing going,
You think he's wearing a wig now or like a
or he
toupee?
got plugs.
Yeah.
You got the Bosley treatment. Something.
Is he one of the bosses, the representatives? Like, he's like the yeah.
Yeah, right. You got like a strip, taken out from the back and then put it all in the front. But but yeah, like I'm starting to suspect that he was a constructed he's a constructed person. Not to say that he's not real or anything. I'm just saying like the whole like mystery and enigma of Elon Musk was crafted.
He's just like, yeah, he's just kind of like they found someone to kind of play the part.
Right. I mean, to uh, like analogy from Iron Man 3, he's kind of like the actor that they got to play like the quote unquote Mandarin.
Right, yeah.
Or yeah, I mean
Or AOC.
I mean, I'm not saying what it's true, but this is just something that I'm slowly starting to like think that could be possible.
But I wasn't gonna go that far. I just kind of think it's more of that he sounds a lot. He sounds a lot smarter than what he actually is, and because people are memorized by even a slight bit of intelligence, that it's like, yeah, here, he's thinking differently, and he's the wave of the future, and let's throw all our support and money and energy behind this guy. It's like, whoa, hold on, wait, why are we just kind of celebrating this guy? Like, I'm not saying that like he has accomplished nothing, but it's like, I think we should slow our roll a little bit.
Yep. All right. Let's get into the good bits of the show. Not that what we were talking about wasn't a good bit, but we kind of have a full show for you tonight, and so let's get into it with one of the two movie reviews we'll be doing tonight. And the first movie that we're gonna review is Hell or High Water, which is a personal favorite of mine. Let me just pull up the synopsis real quick. Okay, yeah, and this movie, yeah, it was it was kind of like it kind of was under the radar, but it's a really good movie. All right, Toby is a divorced father who's trying to make a better life for his son. His brother, Tanner, is an ex-convict with a short temper and a loose trigger finger. Together they plan a series of heists against the bank that's about to foreclose on their family ranch. Standing in their way is Marcus, a Texas Ranger who's only weeks away from retirement. As the siblings plot their final robbery, they must also prepare for a showdown with a crafty lawman who's not ready to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah. So here's and actually the movies that we're talking about do have the way that the heists are set up. They are kind of connected in like the reasoning behind that, because it is kind of like revenge or getting justice for
That's right.
for themselves. So in this film, we don't really know why at first you don't know why they're robbing banks, but it's kind of, they're doing it in, I guess if you're thinking about it in a smart way, they're from kind of the middle of nowhere Texas, and they're hitting a particular branch of banks, but they're doing it like very first thing in the morning, no customers, all that stuff, going after the loose bills, so you don't have to, they're not stealing the like the $100 bills with the die packs, all that stuff that can be traced. So it's like, wow, okay, that's pretty smart. And kind of, but obviously you had the one guy who, Tanner, who is, he's kind of the hothead, kind of, jerk off of the group, and it's like, all right, so we got that going on. And we kind of don't find out exactly why they are stealing up until you kind of about like 30 or 40 minutes into the film, and it's like, oh, okay, so it's not done just for the sheer thrill of bank robbing like it is. For Tanner it is, but for Toby, he's a very calculated, he's hitting these particular branches, doing it at a certain time, for the least amount of damage, all that stuff, and he's hitting this particular bank franchise because they kind of screwed over his family, and he sees that as they're trying to gouge his family out of, because it turns out there was oil on their land, which would have made them extremely wealthy, and so the bank, it kind of had known about the oil without, kind of, and they didn't, and his family didn't know about it up until later on when they started putting liens and stuff on their property, and like they were kind of stringing them along to kind of keep them poor enough, so that they would kind of keep coming back for more loans to keep this this crappy ranch going. And so this is his way now that his mom has died, all that stuff. This is his way of getting revenge on this bank, on this particular bank, and then using the money from the bank to pay them back, essentially, and get his property back. And it's like, oh, that's you kind of like, I don't know who to root for, because you don't want to root for the bad guys, but at the same time, it's like, are they doing something really bad? And I kept thinking of the movie Bonnie and Clyde with Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. It's kind of which is a glorification of Bonnie and Clyde,
Right.
And but yeah, it's interesting.
Right. And we were just quickly talking about this before the show started. I love this movie because it's like Robert's saying, you don't know who to root for, but it's also but it's also because it's one of those stories that really gets you into it, and you're really able to put yourself within the position of the protagonist. Again, not good guys, but the protagonists, the main characters, which is these two brothers, Toby and Tanner. And and immediately you understand the reasoning of why they're doing this. It's because they themselves grew up in relative poverty, and then the banks came at them with like their predatory loans, and they thought that this was a way for them to keep their heads above water. But in fact, they were just dumping more waters on top of their heads. And then on top of that, I don't think you mentioned it, but Toby and Tanner's mother gets sick, and so you accrue like the money that they have to pay back on the loans or the reverse mortgage. And then also you have to pay for like the medical bills for the mother, and so just like perfect storm kind of thing happening,
Right.
and which ends up crushing their family. And so you see these brothers go about robbing banks and laundering money, and it's like I can see myself doing that. And I think that's why I like this movie so much, is because like you immediately understand why they're doing this, and you can immediately put yourself in that situation.
Right. I think it's, and you even have like when you have them doing the investigation too, and they're talking with all the Jeff Bridges' character and the guy who plays it voices John Redcorn from King of the Hill.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That's all I could think about was like, oh, it's John Redcorn.
Right. Wait, who is that? It's
I think his name in the movie was Martinez.
oh no. It was Alberto. It's weird because it's Alberto Parker, but yeah, the actor's name is Gil Birmingham.
Yeah.
John.
And they're even like they're talking to the townspeople. Like they're not. They kind of didn't talk about. They're like kind of keeping the identity of those guys a secret because they kind of knew who it was, but they didn't want to tell the sheriffs and the Texas Rangers and all that stuff.
Really? Are you talking about that scene in the diner with with the group, those group of old timers?
But at the end of the film, like when after he retires, he goes back to the station, and he's kind of given a rundown by one of the other officers that's there. It's like, listen, no one's talking. This guy had no record. He's never been in prison outside of. He's never even been in a courtroom outside of his divorce, proceedings. The townspeople aren't talking. The bank isn't talking. They're not, and it's like no one's willing to, talk or give this guy up. And it's like they're kind of just like, it's done. Like it's like he knew that it was him, but like no, he had, there's no. It goes back to training.
Right. Well, like, yeah. He knew. Yeah, it's not what you know; it's what you can prove. Yeah.
Right.
What was I gonna say? Right, and he knew, like, even though Tanner, shot up, all those cops and killed his partner and like, and eventually, kind of getting to the end, he takes him out. Jeff Bridges' character knows that that the brother Tanner, he wasn't the brains behind the operation. This wasn't his idea. Like he might have had like insights about it because he might have had insights to help in the success of these robberies because the brother's rap sheet did say that he was, he did some time for bank robbery as well. But ultimately, the ultimate planning of it was Toby. And so, yeah, and I think I still love like that exchange at the end, where they're talking without talking, or talking without actually talking about the thing that they were really talking about.
Exactly. And, yeah.
I thought, I just love that scene, especially at the end where, basically Chris Pine's character Toby, calls out Jeff Bridges' character. It's like, hey, I got this place in town. Hey, if you ever want to settle, what we started here, you just come, you come by and see me. It's just like,
yeah.
Wow, Dan, because because Toby is mad too, or Toby is upset too, because Jeff Bridges is the one that killed his brother.
Right, and in a way, because I think Jeff Bridges, like he was really upset because obviously, like his brother killed his partner, who I think in a way, like he always was talking shit about him, but like I think he really liked him.
Right. I mean, because again, that goes. I mean, it's like how men communicate to each other. It's just not. It's not that we don't love. It's just we show love in a different way, and I love the relationship between Jeff Bridges' character and Gil Birmingham's Birmingham's character, because it's like because Jeff Bridges' character would lay out every single racial like slur and stereotype in the book because Alberto Gil Birmingham's character is both Mexican and is half Mexican and half Indian, so There's even like a scene where it's like you know, he kept ragging them about the Indian, you know, slurs and stereotypes, and it's like, oh well, you know, I'm just getting through all the Indians ones, you know, I'm just, you know, when I get to the end of the Indian ones, then I'll start doing the Mexican jokes.
Then he started making fun of soccer. He's like, oh, there's a Mexican one for you.
Uh,
I think the other like really funny thing was that because he's like making fun of like his heritage and all that stuff, and
mm-hmm.
you know, talking about like, oh, you're dancing around the fire and all this shit, and it's like, dude, I'm Catholic, you know,
Yeah.
and in the because this is one of the best parts of the movie. There's a couple of scenes with these two that just I was on the floor laughing. You know, they're sitting in the hotel room, like he's watching this televangelist, and it's like, oh my god, you turn that shit off. It's like, you know, you can go to your own room, right?
Yeah.
It's like I know that. It's like, listen, it's like that guy. God talks to that man as much as God talks through my dog, you know.
Yeah.
And then the other like really funny scene with them too is like when they go, because they're he's trying to like calculate like which he's trying to figure out like which bank they're gonna hit next, because like he's like he kind of figured out their pattern,
mm-hmm.
and and they were sitting at that they were hanging out at that one branch that was there,
mm-hmm.
and they went into that like bar diner.
Mm-hmm.
And the exchange between those two and that waitress, oh my god, that was fucking funny, dude. It's like,
so what don't you want?
That it was on this whole rant about like, listen, it's like it's T-bones and green beans and potatoes. So what don't you want? And
so you don't. He's like, you either don't want the corn on the cob or you don't want the green beans.
Yeah, some asshole from New York, ordered a salmon back in 1987. It's like, we don't serve no fucking salmon. It's like, so, and it's like, I don't want no green beans. I don't want no green beans either. It's like, it's like, and then they had this like afterwards, like, I'll tell you what, no one ain't fucking robbing this place. Oh,
right, yeah. But yeah, it's just like, it's one of those things that people like, who've never spent any man who's never spent any significant time around other men, like, won't understand like that, that kind of dynamic. Even at the last scene that they have together, he was like cracking a joke about him. He's saying, because Tanner's character had had fled up into like these hills, had them pinned down with because he had a rifle with him, and Jeff Bridges' character was like saying like, oh, why don't you just sneak up behind him and tomahawk him, and then just and it's like, and it's funny because it's a funny joke, but then it's just at that moment his partner gets one in the dome.
Yeah, that was the other part that I thought was really hilarious is like when they figure out like when he had guessed correctly that they were hitting this one branch, is like, fucking knew it, and it's like they were like, all right, let's head over there. It's like, let's get some giddy up music going on. And it's like, and because he's driving the other guy's truck, and like he started like what he had on going on was this Christian rock. It's like, oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah. It's which is funny, which reminds me of another King of the Hill quote from Hank Hill, where he says like, it's like, rock music doesn't make Christianity better, it just makes rock music suck.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that was a King of the Hill reference. I don't know. Like, it could have been.
It might have been.
It might have been his little like King of the Hill dig.
That
was one of my favorite lines.
Like the writer, yeah. But but yeah, it's just the dynamic, and it's funny because Jeff Bridges' character and Gil Birmingham's character, like their relationship was almost a mirror of Chris Pine and Ben Foster, the brothers.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
like they were like, because Ben Foster, because Toby and Tanner, they were actual brothers, but Marcus and Alberto, they were like, they were brothers in a different way.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a great kind of like, use of like, mirroring.
Yeah, that was. I saw that. It definitely had a. This was definitely a guy's movie in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
It is. It does have a lot of that, guy humor where it's like, we're not like offended by, people cracking, jokes like that. If you actually, especially if you really care about somebody, it doesn't matter. All that stuff is like that's, that's just our relationship. It's like, I mean, there's a lot of people that if they knew us and they first met us and they saw how we talk to each other, it's like, are you guys friends? Do you hate each other?
Like, yeah, I love this stupid asshole. Yeah, but also I want to give it up for Ben Foster, dude, because I loved his performance.
Yeah.
In this movie, like he was hilarious, and in a weird way, Ben Foster was like, his character was like the brother I wish that I kind of had. Not like the gone to jail and help me rob banks kind of type, but he loved his brother. He was looking out. He was looking out for him. He was looking out for the well-being of his brother's family. And like at the end, he knew that what he had to do, and he made that sacrifice because of the love of his brother. And even
There was
and funny enough, like too, kind of like the relationship between the kind of like, again, this mirroring thing, where just as they're splitting up, Ben Foster's character says like, "Oh, I love you" to Chris Pine's character, and then Chris Pine reciprocates and says, "I love you too," and then like Ben Foster, I forget what he says, but it's just like, it's like, but you're such a you're such an asshole though.
Yeah.
Something to that effect, to where it's like,
yourself.
It's just like, men can't just allow for like that kind of vulnerable like emotion to be, put out, hang out there, for too long. So they have to cut that with like, with like, kind of like this biting humor.
Yeah, it's like because at the last thing is like, oh yeah, hey, go fuck yourself. It's
like, yeah, that's right. That's what it is. That's what it is. But yeah, it's just so great. Yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I was really surprised and glad you recommended it.
Yeah, I still have to check out that other movie that Eric told us about. I forget. It had what's his face? Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen in it. Like Wind River, I think it is. Yeah, that's right. It's Wind River. And
River, yeah,
I got to check out that one because it was also apparently written by the same guy who did Hell or High Water.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's
and Eric did give it a pretty glowing review. So yeah, definitely gonna have to check it out.
All right. Well, what's your rating on this one, Andy?
All right.
Or unless you have any other thoughts or about the film.
Yeah, no. This is a great movie. I highly recommend this to everybody. As for my rating, I'm this is gonna be one of those like rarities, but I'm giving this a 5. You're
giving it a 5, okay?
I'm giving this a 5.
I'm gonna give this one a 4. I like. It is a little, if I was gonna, nick it on anything, there are times where it's a little slow paced. But
that's fair enough,
like I said, the story's good. The there's a lot of great humor in there. And hey, a 4-star is not a bad review. It's definitely you got to watch it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, a 4-star rating is not it's not something to sneeze at. Um, so yeah, that's our review for Hell or High Water. I give it a 5. Robert gives it a 4. Definitely check this movie out. It's a great story. You will be thoroughly entertained. I promise you that. I guarantee you that. All right. So now let's get into some of the stories. Actually, both stories are a little bit Rob centric. I'm gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna let you take the lead.
You're gonna let me take the lead on this? Okay, so we have this is the meat of our movie sandwich, and we got it's mainly sports that we're gonna be talking about here. Two big stories that have come out in the past couple of weeks. We'll start off with our friend, man we love, Colin Kaepernick, right? Yeah. So as you all know, he obviously is a former San Francisco 49ers quarterback. The league he's one of those quarterbacks the league caught up to him. He didn't make the adjustments and kind of started to fade. He wasn't willing to put in the work to make adjustments in his game. And when that happened, he obviously went to the political stance that he went on. And because he was kind of costing, teams money, he wasn't kind of cancer in the locker room. And it's like he just, they kind of team cut him, and he hasn't played in 3 years now. But he's been saying that, oh, I've been working out for 3 years. I've been doing all this stuff, and like I'm ready to play. Like, but it's because the league and all the teams are racist. They don't want me to play, and that's all we've been hearing for years now about this guy. And no NFL team, on their own is going to say, "Hey, why don't you come to our facility for a practice, and let's see if yours improved as you say you are." Because I mean, because the thing is, like, he probably could be a backup quarterback right now, but it's like there's not there's a couple teams that they lost their star quarterback. They probably could use him. But the thing is, with let's say like the Vikings or somebody like brought him in, and it's like, oh, you know what, you don't really fit our system. And well, they're not going to do that because he's just going to call them. It's like, oh, well, it's because they're racist. They don't want me. They don't like what I have to say. They don't like my play. They don't like me because I all blah 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 blah. That's kind of his thing. So initially I thought it was like, wow, the NFL is like, they really caving for this guy. It's like, I think what they did was very smart. Is they knew that they couldn't have NFL teams just doing their own solo thing. So the NFL set up where they had I think it was the Atlanta Falcons practice facility. They set up everything. It had all the teams come, and have their scouts, all that stuff, and like it was set up by the NFL, so you couldn't say that, oh, it's because all the team, like one or two teams, like they just don't like Colin Kaepernick and all his his race, all that stuff. So the NFL set up a thing for him, and they had all the scouts, all the pro equipment, they had receivers ready to go, all this stuff, and people spent a lot of time and money, getting this together. And he was like, all right. And not, hours before this thing is supposed to go on, his tryout is supposed to go on. He ends up saying like, no, I'm not going to do it because you guys won't let like my my own camera crew on here and all this stuff, and I want, I don't want these receivers, I want these receivers, and because you don't want me to do that, I'm not going to do it. It's like, well, they didn't say that they weren't going to do it. It's like you're telling them, literally hours before the start of, not like 24 hours, like 2 hours. Like that's how, like, so they couldn't like shift things all of a sudden. And so he went to some, like, he ended up wanting to film it. It's like some high school, and wanted to put it on YouTube Live, and I was like, what the hell are you doing? And here's the thing is, and this is what I've been talking about, along with some other, pundits in the sports world, and it's like, this guy doesn't want to play. He wants to be a spectacle and a martyr. I shared with you the video of Stephen A. Smith, who is no fan of conservatism or anything like that, but he sees right through what Colin Kaepernick is doing. The thing is, like, he made a lot of money by being a spectacle. I mean, Nike threw, hundreds of millions of dollars at this guy, and he's not even playing. That's the one thing. And so he's made more money being a spectacle and a martyr than he has as a football player. So football to him does not matter at all. And this is just another stunt for him to maybe get some other lucrative deal from some other woke company that's going to throw another, couple $100 million at him. And I think that, honestly, I think the NFL should just, like, you know what, fuck you, and we're done.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they should, the NFL should just do a Pontius Pilate, and it's like, wash my hands of this.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, because Colin Kaepernick, he doesn't want to be known for, as a great football player or quarterback. He just wants to be known. And it's it's so transparent now that's what it's all about. I mean, because it's not as like the deal that they're supposedly working on about, like, the whole, like, filming was that, because for some reason, like, Kaepernick wanted to have his own film crew for, like, a documentary, or like what you were saying, like, put it up on YouTube or whatever. And the NFL was, like, saying, hey, that's just, it seems like that, it would be crowded. We'll film it, and then we'll give you, what we put together, and then also we'll give you all the raw footage, so you can do with whatever you want.
Right.
Even to that, he was just like, "Nah, forget it." It's like that. For some reason, that was the linchpin of the entire deal.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, I think our camera crews are, like, because it wasn't just some, like, ramshackle, like, camera crew. These were guys that go and film prospects all over the country for football, and they have it, it wasn't like some amateur, like, oh, we're gonna cut out, like, parts where he's doing good. It's like, no, it's like, we'll give you the raw film. I mean, they bent over backwards for this guy, and that's why, to me, it just proves that, like, he doesn't want to be in the league. He wants to be a spectacle. Like, this doesn't.
Right, and I mean, like, and the speech he gives at the end of that what was it, 40-minute workout at some high school, like an hour away from the original venue. Yeah, that speech he gives where he's talking about, like, hey man, I'm here, I'm ready to get back into it. I'm just waiting on the teams. It's just like, I'm ready to go anytime, any place. I'm just ready. I'm just waiting on them. It's like motherfucker, anytime, any place. That the training facility, the Falcons training facility, that was the time, that was the place.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? And he made, like, this, like, allusions to, like, oh, they just don't want me to see. They just don't want me to. they just don't want to see me do well, or it's all like this kind of like persecution complex. That somehow like he is somehow uniquely targeted or subject to to some sort of harassment.
Yeah,
It's just like, no, motherfucker, you're making yourself to be an ass. That's it.
Yeah. And he wore a shirt, said like Kunta Kinte, like, making it say, oh, look at, me, I'm just I'm a slave. It's his root shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you?
Yeah, and whatever. We all know his name is Toby, asshole. All right, his name is Toby.
God, just it was the worst. It's just he's
Yeah.
a joke, and I think honestly, I think the NFL's. I'm hoping that the NFL is just like, all right, well, fuck you, we're done. Enjoy, your being who you are, and I hopefully other people see through it as well, and they realize that it's like, no, it's not the NFL. The NFL bent over backwards for this guy,
Right.
trying to get him They wouldn't do this for just anybody. Like, I mean, they allowed him. It's like, all right, fine. If you're gonna call us all this stuff, we'll bend over backwards, give you exact everything that you want, and he still refused it. So it's like, well, you know what? Screw you.
Right. I mean, when you initially told me about this, about how it wasn't Colin Kaepernick by himself setting up this training thing for the teams to come and check him out, but it was actually like the NFL. I likened it to the bratty obnoxious rich kid and going to his party, but only because his parents paid you to be there. That's what I likened it to. But it but it ended up like being something completely different, and it's just like like having the party at the at their super big super fancy mansion wasn't enough, so he went and like decided to move the party like last minute. It's like, fuck you, mom and dad. It's just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just.
All I have to say is fuck Colin Kaepernick. He's not. It's just he's done.
I mean, for me, like it's just like I'm not waiting for him to be irrelevant, because to me he's already irrelevant. I'm not following. I'm not following news about him. I'm not. I'm not. And I'm not. Following him on Twitter or anything like that. He's irrelevant to me, and I think that I think that's what everyone. That's the kind of attitude everyone should have. It's just like, this guy's irrelevant. I don't need to know about him. If he happens to appear on ESPN or whatever, like, okay, but it's just like, this guy's irrelevant to me. He's not being relevant in the way that I want him to be, or he needs to be for me to care. So it's like, so he's wholly irrelevant to me.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes that makes sense. I think it's because a lot of there are people, especially on the left, that tote this guy as like, oh, he's, people don't want him to play because he's, they don't like his stance on police officers and all this stuff. It's like, but it was never about any of that stuff. It's all a stunt. He's lying to you. He doesn't give a shit about those things, but he's using that as a way to make money. He's not a good enough football player, so why don't I do this thing where I know I can, get more attention on me? And hell, it worked. Nike threw $100 million plus at him.
Yeah. Yeah, again, he doesn't care about being known for being a good football player. He just wants to be known. It's like, it doesn't matter like how he's known, even if he's known as an ass. I think he's good with that.
Yeah, like I said, he doesn't, like I said, and so that's why I felt it was kind of an important story, because it's like, he's lying to everybody to say that he cares about all this stuff or all this stuff. It's all a lie.
Right. I would, if he really believed that, and I would respect him I really would respect him for it if he did this, is if anytime he saw a police officer, he'd spit in their face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I mean, I don't advocate for that to happen, but for him, like specifically, if he's like so against like police brutality or whatever, like I want to see. I want to see videos of him every time just merely passes a police officer. He turns around and spits in their face. I'd
Yeah.
100% respect him for that if he did that, because then he'd at least be living by, he'd be living somewhat by his principles.
Yeah, that would be his. Like, I can respect that. I don't like it, but I can respect it at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's living out his conviction. But he's not, and it's like I mean, who the fuck is like watching him day and night? Who like who's the one that's guarding him on like that was guarding him on game days and shit like that? It was the cops. And then and I mean, yes, granted, there are bad apples in the bunch, but to paint, I'm mixing metaphors here, but to paint with a very broad brush and to say that all cops are then responsible, that's too much.
Right. Well, I'm done with Colin Kaepernick. I'm hoping this is the last that we hear of this crazy character.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, he's wholly irrelevant to me in every context. It doesn't like I don't follow him. I don't look for his content. It just happens like it's sometimes his name just comes up in the news and it's like okay, and then I just move on.
But another huge sports controversy that has popped up in the baseball world, which is
this is a big one. This is
something I care a hell of a lot more about than Colin
this
Kaepernick.
This one I care, even though I'm not really that much of a sports person, because it does affect the Dodgers, who being from LA. How can you not? Especially being born and raised in LA, how can you not be a Dodgers fan? But yeah, this one. It stings a little close to home. So.
It's and the thing is, like, I would care about this even if it didn't really affect my team as well, because baseball to me there is a purity to the sport in a sense, and listen, I'm all for being innovative and pushing the limits of the rules, but this was kind of like blatant like conspiracy level cheating, where it's not just the players, but it's like the coaches, the front office. A lot of people were complicit in this, and it's becomes kind of this over the top. So essentially, here's the problem is, they were. And I actually think this might have been connected to the last time that we talked about the Houston Astros with the executive that was fired, because this news came out not too long after this guy was fired, and so it's I'll talk about that here more in a second. But the controversy is that they were stealing signs. Now in baseball, if you are able to kind of in the field of play, let's say you got a guy on second base, he's kind of seeing what the signs that the catcher is relaying, and he's able to figure out what the signs are, and they use that to their advantage. That's fair game. That's been happening since back in 19th century baseball. So that I have no problem with. The problem starts to become where they're at Minute Maid Park. That's the home field of the Astros. They have guys setting up cameras in the rafters who are relaying messages down to, they're relaying messages somewhere, kind of, and they've kind of calculated the signs of all these teams, and they're relaying it through like some of the replay guys down in the dugout. Some of the players are wearing little Band-Aid things with the sensors. So they get like one buzz for like, oh, it's a fastball that's gonna be hitting, 2 buzzes for an off-speed pitch. Now here's the thing: is you still have to be good enough to hit the pitch. You're not always gonna, but it's a mental advantage. Like, oh, I know it's coming. I might not hit it this time, but I know next time
Right.
I
So
have another shot.
you're prepared, man. It's that sounds like the what is it the Caltech guys who try to scam the Vegas casinos and roulette,
Yeah,
where they came up with like like that buzz thing to like because they calculated like the speed of the table and the velocity of the ball, and like they came out like the grid system. So to put money down and like on those like and like they gave you like the likely quadrant and where the roulette ball was gonna land, and so it just sent out like a pattern like one buzz, two buzz, one buzz, two buzz, three buzz, and yeah, that's kind of what you just talked about of them like having like little electrodes and things to give off a signal. It just reminded me of that.
right. And I think like there was times like they were also utilizing like they were like using signals on like beating on like either trash cans or something. They were in the dugout, like kind of the guys were really kind of sending out signals in another way
Mm-hmm.
to I'm not sure if that was at home or if that was like when they were on the road and they were just kind of like oh, it's kind of disguised as like, oh, we're cheering on our team, we want our teammates to do well. And of course that's standard stuff. Like you get the guys in the dugout that are all excited for the game. That doesn't seem unusual.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: is like and they're this came out a few weeks after that executive was fired, and I've kind of heard some theories that it's possible that he may have been the one that kind of, wow, these guys didn't have my back, and they essentially fired me for. I still think it's honestly was for nothing because we're only hearing one side of that story, and it's the that he's a bad man, that was kind of making these female reporters feel uncomfortable. So that's why I'm kind of like, I kind of think that might be bullshit. At least it's not.
Oh,
All,
that was the GM's.
What it was like an executive, one of the executives, like the assistant GM or like something.
So you're saying that was the reason why he was fired?
No. He was fired before that. We talked a few weeks ago about how he was fired for like he was, said he was aggressive towards these female journalists, and because he was saying like, I'm so glad that we got this one.
That's right. Because the guy who was supposedly linked to domestic violence, even though he wasn't charged, and the wife or girlfriend didn't press any charges, or said that wasn't the reason or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So that it was. So there was that. But this story about the stealing signs and all that stuff, that came out not that long after this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've come to find out since then is not is that the all the executives were like, yeah, let's start doing this. And there's emails and all this stuff. So this guy who was fired knew about all this stuff. And so the fact that it just happened to come out like not that long after he got fired makes me think that like, it's like, hey, you know what? Fuck these guys. I'm gonna blow the whistle. And now it's come out that like there's players that have come out talking about it, that have gone on the record talking about it, and people are starting to leak this information out to the baseball press. And the thing is, like, it's been going on for a while, and like I said, you still have to hit the baseball, but it gives you that mental advantage. And it kind of goes back to like when the whole steroid stuff. It's like I said, you still have to compete and still do the work and hit the baseball, but you have the mental advantage in baseball is huge.
Right, just being
And
prepared for it. It's like, okay, this is the pitch that's going to happen. This is the likely place that the ball's going to travel to. So I'll just yeah.
and
It's like
and
that. It's
here
like that
and
whole question is like, what would you do if you know you couldn't fail? And it's like, you know,
right, yeah. And you start looking into now, like it's like we're starting to look back into the numbers of some of the these top of these Houston players, and you look at like their home numbers as opposed to their road numbers, and a lot of times that a lot of players do better at home. It's like they always talk about the home field advantage. There is a
mhm,
truth to that,
right, the
but the
psychological
disparity
benefits and
Right, but the disparity between their home numbers and their road numbers are astounding.
right,
It's and it's like, well, how good really is their like one of their their top players? Like, how good is Jose Altuve? How good is Carlos Correa? How good are these guys really? Are they actually good hitters, or were they only good hitters because they were benefiting off of cheating? So it's and unfortunately, it hurt my team in the world. We probably should have won that World Series, or at least we would have
right,
had a better
which
shot
then
at
brings
winning
it
the World
back
Series.
to at least for me the personal bit of it, and that being because the cheating was supposedly happening during the 2017 World Series, which the Dodgers were in, and uh, were the Dodgers stolen from their rightful championship?
Right, but here's the thing: is like I don't even care. I don't care if they were playing the San Francisco Giants in that World Series. This
Mm-hmm.
pisses me off because this is you can't do this type of stuff. Yeah, this like I said, innovating, that's one thing. If you want to like be an innovator and push the limits of the rules, fair game. I'm totally fine with that. But when you're blatantly cheating, which this is, and because you're not only affecting and the financial benefit for winning that World Series, that's $70+ million for their franchise.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money. And yeah, honestly, like I hope they really go after these guys. And it's taking a couple years worth of draft picks away, like every draft pick. I think they should have that World Series money, a fine, like $70+ million
Mm-hmm.
that they earned from the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
They're also talking about like maybe like actually taking away that championship and giving it, but the thing is, I don't. That to me would be an empty championship
Right. I mean, yeah,
because
because if they reversed it and then for 2017, if they reversed it and then gave it to the Dodgers, if I were on the Dodgers team, it's like, no, I don't want, I don't
no,
want to
like I
win. I
said,
don't want the win that way.
right, and it kind of goes back to the like back to 1919 with the Reds and the White Sox. There was that whole the White Sox the Black Sox scandal. It's like that championship. The Reds won it, but it's like it's kind of like it's a little bit tainted in that sense. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to. They kind of won that championship, but it's kind of an empty one. And I would feel
Right.
the same way if MLB reversed it and gave us the championship. It's like it's an empty championship. We didn't win it,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is, like, this team needs to be severely punished. Like, potentially, I'm not talking about maybe the players, but there should be executives that should be banned for life from the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Or and like I said, they need to have no like draft picks, um, and financial, a lot of money taken away from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there has to be a huge amount of firings, within the Astro organization, and I mean, to the degree at which, like, to the degree that players were complicit, I think what is it? A garnishing of salaries is in order as well for a specific amount of time would
Well,
be warranted.
here's the thing with the players though. They're going to be hit like when it comes time for free agency because
True.
teams see now that this is coming out, teams see like, well, how good really are these players? Like before, George Springer or Carlos Correa, that they're easily a maybe
Yeah,
$250 million
yeah.
player.
Before this, they were
But
hot
now,
commodities.
like I'm not going to spend that money on them. Like they're
Yeah,
probably going to lose.
everything is put into doubt. Salaries have to be adjusted.
Yeah, like, and I'm not talking necessarily about like the guys that were players that they got from other teams that were already good, because it's like that probably didn't really help them necessarily. But like
Yeah.
the teams that are the homegrown Astros, like that have never been with another organization, like they're like the superstars of the game. It's like, no, they're not anymore. I don't think that they're that good anymore,
Mm.
and they're gonna lose out on a lot of money.
Yep.
But
Sucks to
yeah,
be
I
those
think
guys.
If MLB doesn't hit them hard and it's just gonna be like free game for all the other teams, like, well, fuck that. We'll just do what they did, and like, well, we'll get a slap on the wrist. And I think that's a dangerous way to go. It needs to be so. This is one of those things of like this is like one of those cardinal rules of the game. It's like, if you don't make it where it's like the penalty is so much worse than like the benefit.
Mm.
Um,
Right. So
you have
we're talking. Yeah, I think. I think we're talking like crucifixion level of punishment is in order.
yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's the only way. I mean, because like, how are you really going to discourage something like this repeating? You have to take it to the extreme, and you have to to make the punishment so extreme that no other team, no other franchise will dare try this again.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do. I mean, that's what they did with all the betting. That put an end to that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another one of those events where it's like, yeah, we got to put our foot down and really make this stick.
Yeah,
So
scorched
it doesn't
earth,
happen again.
crucifixion. Having the birds come out, peck out your eyes, type of shit.
Yeah.
All right. You have anything else to add to that, or?
No, that was it. I feel so good getting that off my chest.
I know because we pushed these two stories back for a while, and I know like particularly the baseball one was a particular sand in your crawl issue.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, it does. I mean, it hurts as a fan of like the Dodgers. Obviously, it hurts because I feel like maybe we lost a championship
Yeah, we were
because
cheated. We were cheated. We were literally cheated out of the championship, or at least a chance at the championship.
right.
Um,
But the but I wouldn't care if because I'm just a fan of baseball, and like I said,
mm-hmm,
I don't care if it was the San Francisco Giants in that World Series and it was stolen from them. I'd
mm-hmm,
still be just as pissed because it's like you're cheating, you're manipulating games at that point.
right.
And I have a huge I hate that. It's like it's and yeah, it's like I said, it's that mental advantage, which is 90% of baseball. Yeah, obviously it's 10% physical skill, 90% mental in baseball.
Word. All right. That all being said, let's end tonight's show with the last review of the night, and that is for the movie The Sting, starring Paul Newman and
Robert Redford.
Robert Redford. That's right. Robert Redford.
I love this movie. I just yeah, this is This to me is the coup de grace of heist films.
Absolutely. It is, and it's, a lot of people, they might not think it is, but it is, and and I think there, okay, we'll just talk about it, but first let me just.
From when I was like, because I watched this a lot as a kid, and I loved it. Watching it now as an adult, it's like, holy shit, this movie's really dark. It's a very dark movie.
It's a really dark movie. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up more with like the TV version.
That's
and
probably
so
what it is. Yeah.
Because like there was like things that like I didn't know were part of this movie, and it's like, how did I not know or see this before? But yeah, just probably just because it was like the watered down, like edited TV version. But
That's
like
probably what it is.
being able to see it, uncut in its original, theatrical form was definitely great, and it definitely enhanced why why I love the movie all the more.
Right. Yeah.
All right, let me just give a quick synopsis, and then we'll get this review started. Following the murder of a mutual friend, aspiring conman Johnny Hooker teams up with old pro Henry Gondorf to take revenge on the ruthless crime boss responsible, Doyle Lonigan. Hooker and Gondorf set about implementing an elaborate scheme, one so crafty that Lonigan won't even know he's been swindled. As their big con unfolds, however, things don't go according to plan, requiring some last-minute improvisation by the undaunted duo.
Oh, actually, and here's another way that these our two movies are a little bit connected, and it goes back to King of the Hill, because the Sting, King of the Hill did a parody episode
That's right.
Of the Sting, kind of doing the same thing. So it's kind of a little bit of a tie-in on both of these connected to King of the Hill.
Right. I know, tonight, I mean, usually we have a Simpsons reference, but tonight I guess it's a King of the Hill reference.
Yeah, yeah. It's very rare. It's very rare I get to do a King of the Hill reference. But
right. And I love that cartoon. It was a really good show.
That one is, that was one of the things. I did not watch it a lot when it was on, but I watched it after like it was off the air, and it's like it is so much better than you think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good.
Yeah. So yeah, here's the thing: is like because I've watched this movie probably like 2 or 3 times since we were talking about doing the review of it, and yeah, like the whole like beginning part of the film, like where he's working with that Johnny Hooker is working with his friend, what's his name?
Luther.
And then like essentially, they ended up unknowingly stole from a mobster, and that mobster being Doyle Lonigan, and Luther ends up getting murdered, and they were trying to find the other people that were in on it, like so Johnny and all that stuff. It's like I forgot that whole part, like, and it may have been because of the TV edited version, like we just kind of either didn't get that part or like we just forgot it. But yeah, I was like, man, I don't remember this part of the movie at all. And that was, it was kind of dark because it was like because Luther essentially, like they pulled that con, and it's like, oh, this is enough money. And it was like Luther was done; he was out. Like he was getting ready to just kind of live the rest of his life, and he was killed. And Johnny, I think he liked just conning people, and it was like he found grifting was something that he enjoyed, kind of like how Tanner liked robbing banks, and he'd blow money. Another connection to these movies. it's like I like it's like he would blow money just for the excuse to go rob banks, or in this case Johnny liked to go grifting again because it was fun to him. So but now that like Luther, who was like his mentor, his best friend, and he's killed, so it's like I'm gonna get this guy, I'm gonna get this Lonigan guy, and he meets up with Luther's friend Henry Gondorf, played by Paul Newman, and they set up kind of like this big con and set at Doyle Lonigan, and that's kind of like where all the fun of the movie starts.
Yeah. I love I love the transitions and how it basically told you like the part of the con that they were doing, like from this,
Right.
the hook and
The trap and
the trap, and I thought it was great. Wait, what was that?
Yeah, it was like it was like the hook, the trap, the sting. It was kind of like they had it would kind of like cut it up into different acts.
Yeah, the thing, yeah, the acts, like the parts of uh, the confidence game were, acted as the acts of a play, or in this case, the movie. And so, yeah, there's like the setup, the hook, the trap, and the sting, and I thought that was really great, and I loved how like the plan was coming to fruition, and it was it was all like working out, but then there was like the seeming complication of like the FBI agents.
Right. Well, because you had that one cop who was trying to find Johnny Hooker for giving him counterfeit money, because I think he was kind of a crooked cop.
Right, he was a cop on the take.
Right, and so he was pissed off because Johnny passed off counterfeit money to him,
Mm-hmm.
and was trying to to find him, and so you had that complication. You had because Doyle Lonigan didn't know what Johnny Hooker looked like,
Right.
and so you had essentially him. He was dodging Lonigan from the assassins that were put on him, yet also trying to con Lonigan in this thing. So there was this constant kind of back and forth, and so Johnny was always trying to was kind of trying to avoid all that, and it's and I don't think and initially he didn't give all the information to Henry Gondorf. It's like, you need to tell me all this stuff so that we can plan for it, because he's one of those guys he's kind of like you could compare Gondorf and Hooker to how Toby and Tanner were in Hell or High Water, where it's one of them was very smart, very kind of always planning ahead, whereas Johnny Hooker is more of in a way the hothead of the group.
Right. And it was interesting because even though in Hell or High Water, Toby, Chris Pine's character, was a younger brother, but he was the more mature one.
Right.
As opposed to in The Sting, where Paul Newman's character, Henry Gondorf, was like the older seasoned con man, and Robert Redford's Johnny Hooker was the young up and comer.
So yeah, you had and then but yeah, you have. I'm trying to think of what other the one of my favorite scenes was it was in The Hook, and they're trying to get Lonigan's attention, and it starts off in the train car, playing poker, and it's like how he was faking, Paul Newman was faking being Gondorf was faking being drunk, but then he kept always intentionally mispronouncing his name to piss him off. And he was a known cheat in cards, and but Gondorf was a much better cheater. He was really good at sleight of hand,
Mm-hmm.
and he and it's like, how the hell did this guy beat me at cheating? And it's like they also like made it so like that they stole Lonigan's wallet beforehand. So
Right, that's kind of like a test to that was like a test to see like if if you'd actually miss it, and then also to see like how how like streetwise he really was in a way. But they're able to steal it, and he's none the wiser.
Right, but it sets it up where it's like at the end of the game where it's like he gets beat and he's so pissed, like fine, I'll and he's like, oh, I must have left my wallet in my. It's like, like what the hell kind of game is this? Like it's like this is a gentleman's game. You're supposed to pay up on your bets, and so
Right,
it's
and
like
he flashes the cash that he stole from Lonigan.
yeah. Hey, it's like using the money that you stole, to like
exactly. Just like in Hell or High Water, when they they launder the money through in Hell or High Water, they launder the money through a casino, and then they give the check from the casino to the bank, and it's like, oh yeah, here's the money that we owe you. It's like, if it is your money.
Right, yeah. It's like, man, these movies are a lot more connected than I realized.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so that was like one of those great scenes. And then the whole like kind of fake setup that they had for the horse racing thing, and then Hooker was having when they were trying to lure Lonigan in, and he was he was attempting to try to test the waters and not just like kind of just dive right in all the way, right away. And he's like, well, I want to meet your partner that's in on this, because he had so you had, what was that character's name? I just know him as like he played in the Golden Girls later on. It's like that's how I remember.
Yeah, Kid Twist.
Yeah, Kid Twist. Thank you.
I knew you were a Golden Girls. Ben was right. You are a Golden Girls fan.
No, I looked it up. That's how I know.
Sure, buddy. Sure.
How do I know? How else would I know that his name was Miles in the Golden Girls? He dated Rose.
Because you love it. You secretly love it. Admit it.
I admit nothing. So anyways, Kid Twist is like they had to like think on the fly and kind of like, oh, my office is being painted, so let's meet in another location. Right. And kind of like
because like the whole, because the story that they give Lonigan is that Johnny Hooker has this contact at Western Union, and that's where all the horse racing results come in, and then they send it out to all the bookies. But the scam was that the contact at Western Union would hold back the results of the race for Henry Gondorf's characters, and so Hooker was then able to get Lonigan to put a bet before the results were put out, and then they were able to cash in.
Yeah, so it's but like that whole scenario was kind of like that trying to lure Lonigan in. It was really like you're on the tip of your toes, like, man, is it gonna work? And and you also have to remember, this movie is set in the late 30s, so
Depression era Chicago.
So like a lot of this stuff wouldn't necessarily obviously like work today, because a lot of how it's run is much different.
And information and technology is different. So,
but like for that era, it's like, oh, this is kind of like this is happening a lot, and it's quite ingenious. And so it's like, oh man, like you have this one guy who like you're throwing him a bunch of money. And it's like, oh, yeah, we'll just delay the results, and then you give us who the winners are, and we'll bet like a certain amount, and we'll all make money.
Exactly.
But let's see, what was another scene that was really good from the film.
Well,
There was this whole like. I'm saying, what were you saying?
Oh no, I was gonna say like what was my not well I wouldn't necessarily favorite scene, but really interesting scene was the twist of who the second killer was.
Oh right, yeah, that was a huge twist. I when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I did not expect that at all.
Right, yeah, because especially because they kind of did this like misdirection where they initially talk of when they have like the initial meeting, and then I think Kid Twist or JJ gives like the pictures of the supposed hitman that's after Johnny, and one of the pictures turns out to be accurate, but the other one isn't because the picture is of two different men.
Right.
But the twist is the other hitman turns out to be a hit woman in that this kind of like love interest they set up for Johnny and the waitress at the diner near his hotel room.
Right, yeah, that was a huge twist. I didn't because it's always setting you up for like thinking it's someone else,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's another like you don't really necessarily see the faces for a little while, but you see like them like kind of getting ready for an assassination,
Mm-hmm.
and after the the tryst with Hooker and then the assassin. He wakes up and like she's gone, all her stuff is gone, and it's like, oh, okay, but he obviously has to get ready for the sting, and when he's walking through the alley, he all of a sudden sees her. It's like, oh hey, and kind of like, and
Yeah, like, this is
this
let's
other guy.
go. Yeah. This is like the scene where like let's go run away together now. But then you see like this other gentleman
Who we
that
think is the
right.
actual
He kind of
assassin.
they kind of set him up to be the other hitman, but this other guy ends up killing that woman, and and it wasn't just like shot to the chest or whatever. It was like they pretty much like right between the eyes. And then he goes to go to see if she was all right, and then you see that she had a gun as well, and so you're like,
She was
what?
gonna kill you, kid.
Yeah, and then so like the other guy comes around and it's like, hey man, it's like, oh man, good thing I got to you because she was about to kill you. She was the other hitman that Lonigan had hired to kill you. So it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting twist in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also not the last twist.
No, and not the last twist either. Because the other thing that's kind of set up, so you have obviously you have the detective from Joliet that is trying to get the Hooker,
Mm-hmm.
and he obviously Hooker's been dodging him quite a bit, and the FBI comes to meet this detective and kind of like, listen, we're going after Gondorf. We know he's active again, all this stuff, and it's like you got to get to Hooker, who we know can get us Gondorf, and it's like, and so finally, that detective catches up to Hooker and like kind of brings him in, and so the thing is, your thing is like, he's like you think that they got him. And it's like, all right, well, like, listen, you give us Gondorf, and that's it. Yeah, we'll let you go because you're not the who we're after.
Yeah, you're small. You're the little fish. We want the big fish.
And he's like, okay, well, I'll do that, but like, let me, the guy that we're after, that we're trying to get revenge on, is a bad guy. It's Lonigan. We want to get him. Mm-hmm. Once it's done, you do your thing. That's fine.
Right.
And I was like, and it's all right. So you have like this thing that's like, man, he's kind of like betraying, Gondorf, and it's like there's all this stuff that's being balanced. Like, man, like I don't know, like he's betraying his partner, and kind of dodging the assassin. He's got all this going on, and come to the final scene where Lonigan ended up what they did is like they found like a certain race, and the way that they talk to him, it's like oh yeah, put your money on this other horse, and so he puts a 500 grand, which is a hell of a lot of money back in 36. He it's like put it on that horse to win, and the guy Kid Twist comes in, and it's like it's like oh, Lonigan's like bragging. It's like, oh yeah, I put 500 grand on that, for that horse to win. It's like, to win? I said to place. So he's gonna finish second. It's like, but by then it's like he's already like the race.
Yeah, you already put in the bet.
Finished. Yeah, and that's when the FBI breaks in, and it's like, all right, everyone, kind of hands up, all that stuff, and you have once they get to Gondorf, they arrest him or kind of hold him down. And it's like, all right, kid, you're free to go, and Gondorf shoots him in the back, shoots Hooker in the back.
Right, which then proceeds the FBI agents to shoot Gondorf. Right,
and it's like, and they the detective, the one that was after, the one that's on the take,
Snyder,
rushes Lonigan out. It's like, come on, let's get out of here, and they kind of because they both just don't want to be anywhere near there.
Right, because Lonigan has like this public persona as someone who's pulled himself up out of the gutter by his own bootstraps, and made a living, is respectable, and and is a banker, and so it's like he can't be in a place like with dead bodies.
Exactly.
Let alone let alone a gambling parlor.
Right.
And so they get so they rush it. So so the cop rushes them out, and then as soon as they're gone, it's like it gives like the all clear sign, and you see that it was just like like a squib, and and was it Johnny swallowed like a blood capsule to make it look like you were shot.
Right. And the whole FBI thing was just another setup by Gondorf to make it like kind of to get the detective off their backs,
and also it's like to help him to get Lonigan like out of there as well, so he wouldn't like think of
to sell to sell everything and kind of get them their victory, and it's kind of satisfying because this guy who killed all because everyone in that room was friends with Luther, like they all loved Luther.
Right.
And they all wanted a piece of this guy for what they did to Luther. And killing this guy wouldn't have really done anything because it's like he's kind of in a business where death is it's an inevitability. So you attack the thing that he cares about most, his money, and where the guy he killed them, like they were saying, it's like, wow, he killed Luther over something that's like not even like it's like like $5. It's that's how much money means to this guy. Right. So you attack him where it hurts, and that's his money. And so it really is kind of like this satisfying end to everything.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a great movie. Really well done, well acted. But also just kind of the term that we coined here on this show, cinematic archaeology. You when you watch movies, they kind of get, when you're trying to express like I know you, or we both know the same thing. The signal that people people usually gave it was stroking of their nose.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know if this is and I don't want to say that this was. I don't know if this was, but this was like the first movie that I saw where it could have been the origination point.
That's what I was thinking about that myself too. It's like, is this the movie like where like this came from, or was this like something that was already like around
Yeah, well, already
that
a
people used
thing.
and like yeah,
But like just thinking about it, like I don't like because I mean not that I've watched an extensive amount of old movies, but I've never seen that particular gesture done before, and
right,
and it seems like this movie would be. I mean, because this movie was made in like in the '70s, in the early '70s, and
right.
so it looks like it could be like the origination point. I don't know. If you do
I don't.
know out there, then let us know. But
Yeah, but I thought that was something I caught on to as well.
mhm.
That I was thinking, that might. I think this may be where it came from, but I don't know.
Right, because I mean, especially because like if you're if it's like one of those like kind of scam heist kind of things, and you're trying to communicate with like team members, it's that'd kind of be the way. And I mean, up until again, I haven't watched a lot of old timey movies, but I haven't even in like the ones where they're trying to do like pull off some sort of a scheme, I've never seen uh, that particular gesture in any other movie.
Yeah, because I even because I watched another one that we didn't do a review on, but like called the Killing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, and that's kind of set like an older film, like set back in like the set in like the 50s, and yeah, there was nothing like that. So it's kind of I think this might be something this movie ended up creating this that gesture.
Right, because like apps, I mean, going forward from the Sting, now whenever like there's like where TV shows or movies they try to do like a Sting homage or something, there's always that kind of like the signal, and it's usually
Right.
like
Yeah.
the swiping of the side of one's nose, kind of like how they did in the Sting, and it's particularly at the end where Johnny's walking out and he sees one of the con men that volunteered to take down Lonigan, and he gives like the signal the to Johnny, and then Johnny returns the signal to him. So
Right. But yeah, it's the other thing about the music in the soundtrack for this film is great too. It's a lot of this ragtime music, and
right,
this like it was the Entertainer, which is
yeah, the
I think
main
was
theme of the movie is the entertainer.
right, which is by Scott Joplin. I think that's
Something like
I
that. I
might be
mean,
wrong
any
with his
like,
name.
and for those of you who don't know, like if you grew up in a time where ice cream men were a thing, then the song because
Yeah. Oh, it's like
when you
every
heard the
time I
song, the ice cream man was near.
yeah, every time I hear the song, I think of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But like there was a lot of this, kind of like ragtime music that was, done, I think by this guy, where they used music from him, and it
Yeah,
actually
you're right, Scott
repopularized.
Joplin, and yeah, from 1902.
Right. Yeah. They ended up. Well, they used a lot of his music in this film,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of brought back, repopularized him as a
Mm-hmm.
composer after this movie came out, and it just it fits the time period. It's just it's great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the by, I was looking through the cast of the movie, and Luther's name is Robert Earl Jones, and he's the father of you know of actor James Earl Jones.
Really,
Yeah,
I knew the names were similar. I did not realize that they were related.
right. I didn't. When I saw the actor's name, it's like Robert Earl Jones. I was like, huh. So I clicked on it. I clicked on his IMDb and his Wikipedia, and it's like, yeah, father of James Earl Jones.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, neither did I. But then, because in the movie, because it was done in the early '70s, he's a lot older. But
Right.
but online they have like an a younger picture of himself, and he does look like James Earl.
That's fascinating. I'm learning that for the first time. I had no idea that was his James Earl Jones's father.
Surprise!
Yeah. But yeah, man, this is one of those movies that you have to go see. It's a classic.
Right. And
I could probably watch this movie 100 more times and I won't get tired of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I dare say that the modern remake of what is it? Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11. I think borrowed a lot of elements from The Sting. If you think about it,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
if you think about it, like the whole how they put in twists and how basically like the structure that they use, the setup, the trap, the sting, and all that stuff. It's it's in here, and it's in Ocean's 11. And
like you said, this is what I was saying. This is the coup de grace of heist films, and because of that, it's you have the people who do the parodies of it. You have the people that are taking elements away from it for their own heist films. And like I said, this is the one. It wasn't the first, but I think it's the best.
Right. Agreed. I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm trying to think of it. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to say about the film, or do you have any other scenes or thoughts that you liked?
Well, I do like the ending where when they're after Lonigan has been rushed out of there and it's been revealed that was the sting was successful, and they're tearing down everything, and was it Gondorf who was talking with Johnny? Is like, hey, are you gonna stay for your cut? And and Johnny says, no, I'm just probably gonna he refuses his cut of of the money and says, I'll probably just blow it anyways. And then he and Gondor both walk out of there, and then they kind of end on kind of like a closing zoom of them. It's just as they're walking down the alleyway, and you can tell that they're just they're on their way to their next con.
Yeah, I think
I absolutely love that.
I think it was a way of saying it's because because Johnny Hooker liked drifting, and he was more in it. The money was just kind of a secondary thing. I think he liked the thrill of doing what he was doing, and he found essentially another Luther that was a mentor to him, that was his friend. And Gondorf, who when he is first met by Hooker, is kind of he's kind of given it up, he's kind of washed up. And I think meeting hearing about what happened to Luther and meeting Johnny Hooker, it reinvigorated him to this lifestyle. And so it's now it's kind of they're a great pairing together.
Right. Well, I'm also my take on it was that his refusal of the cut of the money that they got from Lonigan was not just kind of kind of paying respect to Luthor, but to signal that he's kind of matured, and it's
right.
And to really and for the audience to understand that for him this isn't for him him grifting isn't again, like you were saying, it wasn't just about the money. It was about the thrill of doing it and getting away with it. So my takeaway was that he's matured. He was doing this thing for his friend, um, and he recognizes that him having the money would just lead for him to like blow it again.
Right.
And so recognizing that is like the first step like for his maturity. So like so the next job that does come along, then you know he'll do it for the thrill, but then he won't necessarily blow his money.
Right. So yeah, it was. Like I said, this is an exciting must-watch film.
Absolutely. All right, let's give this our rating and let's wrap this bitch up.
All right. This to me is a 5-star for me. This is, like I said, this is the best heist film. It not only has been parodied a bunch of times, but a lot of other heist films have taken elements away from it. So it's the best one out there. I've watched this many times, and I still love it. It's a must-watch. 5 stars.
All right. I think in an unprecedented move, I'm gonna also give this a 5-star rating.
Yeah, like I said, it has good soundtrack, good pacing, good acting, and like I said, there's several twists within the film that you don't see coming, and it's great, man.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, this the concept of the heist film isn't necessarily new, but I think The Sting does does it to perfection, and from that point on is the standard for like all other heist films.
Yeah, definitely. It set a very high bar that I don't really think that anyone has touched since.
True. Yeah. So there you have it. That's our review for The Sting. Both Robert and I give it a 5-star rating. Do yourself a favor and watch this movie because it is great. Just don't just think because it's an old timey movie, from an old, about an old timey time, that it's gonna be because this movie was made in the 70s. I think like the set direction and the art direction was great, and it actually like made you feel like you're watching. It was like a portal into watching actually Depression era characters or people.
Right. That's the other thing is like the set design and everything. It's like, man, I really felt like I was in the 30s. Like,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly my point. You forget that this movie was made in the 70s. This was made. This movie was depicting something that happened like 40 years prior. But you feel like that it's happening, that it was happening at the time. So I think and I think that's what lends that's what lends to my 5-star rating of this movie, because you're transported to that time, even though this movie was made 30 years prior to the time being depicted.
Right.
So yes, that's the a review of The Sting. Go watch it. It's a good one. We promise.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, that was the last bit on the agenda for the show. So we're gonna shut her down now. Shut her down. But we want to thank you for joining us. I hope you guys were entertained. I had fun as always.
I was entertained.
And yeah, there you go. If Robert was entertained, then it has to be a good show, because Robert is a very hard person to please. Yeah, so don't forget to join us every Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Sometimes live and sometimes at 8. Don't forget to check out the library of other shows that we got. The Circular Jerks main podcast. Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Robert's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter at PodcastCOJ and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. That's where we put up behind the scenes stuff, or things, a little musings that we might have. Also, I don't know when this is gonna happen, but we're gonna open up. What was it? What was that? That
Letterboxd.
Letterboxd. We're gonna,
Yeah.
since we do a lot of movie reviews and we talk a lot about movies. It's just a natural extension. So we are gonna have a Circle of Jerks, an account on Letterboxd. If you're also into cinema and movies, and you enjoy our takes on movies, then do give us a follow on there too when that eventually is set up. And with all that said, we thank you again, and we'll see you next week. Yeah, and don't do anything I would.